What's good, everyone? This is Dr. Rizzo with another interview, getting to know my friend Tyler Watson. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna be discussing, a little more in detail on how to maximize ourselves. Tyler's come up with a brilliant framework on how to. Would you say better ourselves, Tyler? Is that a better word?
More of like, I mean, everything we do is an improvement, but more of just how to make changes that actually last.
Mm, mm. Consistent, lasting changes. I like that. So what we're gonna do first, shout out to the sponsor. We got Covenant Coffee. Tyler, I like these guys. And the reason is so part of my work is I work with foster kids. I work with everybody. I work with everybody, mainly people with disabilities, so on and so forth. And what I like about this company is they focus specifically on the emancipated foster youth. So the ones that age out after 18, they employ them and they give them opportunity. So shout out to these guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's bomb coffee too. So Tyler, what's good, man? How you doing today?
I'm doing phenomenal. And just doing the dad thing today and helping out with the team and doing all sorts of fun stuff. So
you doing the dad thing? How many kids you got?
4.
No, how old are you? 22?
I'm 34.
Dang, good for you, bro. Hey, that's props. What ages?
So 8-year-old girl, and then a 6-year-old girl, and a 3-year-old girl. And we just had a boy at the end of December. So
wow,
about 2 months old now.
You got a full package, bro. And on top of that, you're busy. That's busy right there, especially having I have a 4-year-old. She just turned 4 this weekend, and then I have a 2-year-old.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm in the boat with you, man. I'm living that dad life, and I'm loving it. Let's move on into what we're doing. Tyler, he has a lot to discuss in terms of how to get those changes that we want. I'm going to actually change that. How to get those changes that we need, and how to make those changes actually last, actually be consistent with. So Tyler, before we get into that, tell us about who you are. Tell us a little more about who Tyler is.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this, I became obsessed with change, and it came out of a need. So, backstory a little bit. When I was like 12 years old, parents ended up separating. But it was out of the blue, so I didn't really know any context to it. And one day my dad sits me down and says, "Hey, your mom and I are getting a divorce."
Dang.
And up to this time, everything that was taught was faith, family, like everything solid, stick together forever.
Yeah.
And then boom, everything changed. So in that moment, when that disconnection happened, which I talk a lot about disconnections or, changes in your reality or your perceptions, I took it on as it was my responsibility or my fault as the oldest son.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of pain and insecurity inside, but I didn't know how to communicate it back then.
Yeah.
So ended up turning to porn addictions, video game addictions, suicidal tendencies, from about 12 to about 18 years old. Never told anybody, but struggled all the time. But on the outside, I became class president, MVP, did all these things externally.
Wow.
But on the inside, I was very broken. And through that, fortunately, there's some part of me that knew that I could change, but I just didn't know how.
Wow.
And so I wanted to know how. I started reading some books. I wasn't a big reader. I sucked at reading in school. I was just terrible at school anyway.
Reading's hard, bro.
I did all these things to try to prove myself, and it was hard. But as I did that, I wanted to learn. I wanted to be better. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to do a lot of give back and serve. And I wanted to not see those patterns that I experienced and get out of those fight, flight behaviors, those addictions.
Yeah.
I watched my mom go through 4 more divorces, my dad through another. So I was terrified to get into relationships. I knew I was just going to screw it up. It was going to end in failure. It was just what I knew. And I also struggled. I was a massage therapist, and I would charge like $15 for a massage. So I had some money issues and some value issues.
I can see that. I can see that. You can see you not making a little living
So
right now.
I was like, I put in all the work. I was really good at what I did, but I didn't feel like I deserved it. I didn't feel like I was worthy of it. And I felt like I just had to give, and I couldn't ask to receive.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, I went on this journey and I just knew I could change, but I didn't know how, but I wanted to figure it out. So,
it's hard to know how to change at 12. Too.
Oh yeah, it sucks. And even and this was like, I didn't know how. And so I just prayed a lot and tried and like cried a lot and like didn't talk to anybody.
Sounds like a 12-year-old journey though, for reals. Right?
It sucked. I had
a hard moment like that.
Had my best friend, my dog, that I talked to, and that was about it. So, which he kept me going,
Did you have like loneliness? Were you having friend issues?
Totally. Yeah, I was the one that, like, around 12, I'd be the one who was on the bus. I'd look out the window, not talk to a soul. I was terrified of people. In high school, I got a little bit better, as I became MVP, and I was just good at what I good at football and stuff. And so I got over some of those fears, but still I didn't, in drama, I was like, I'm not going to speak in front of anybody. Didn't want to talk to people. Like, I was like, I'm done with
those are hard skills though.
It sucks. Yeah.
Right? People don't like to talk in front of people. You see the biggest, the strongest guys. One thing that's going to scare them is go talk and teach something in front of people.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Because we're afraid of failure. We're afraid of judgment. We're afraid of perceptions of others. So I had a lot of that stuff. And yet, as I started to read some books, I was on the free train of like, do everything I could for free because I don't have any money. And
this is what, after high school? What age? Yeah,
like high school, like 2 years later. So I went and served a mission for my church for 2 years in Mexico. And so got immersed in that and came back, but I fell into a lot of the same old habits. So even though I went on this like spiritual journey for those 2-year period, I came back, fell back into porn, fell back into feeling like I wasn't good enough, couldn't mount up to anything, fear of getting into relationships, like all that stuff came up. And I wanted to change. I really did. And so I started to study the mind and emotions and what actually made people succumb to stupid stuff. Mm-hmm. And so the more I learned, a lot of the philosophies out there said you can change anything with repetition and passion. If you put in enough energy and you do it enough times, you'll do it. So that's what I like started with. And any tool or technique I learned, I was like, if it's not working, I just got to do it more often and with more intention. So I learned some different techniques, processes to help myself emotionally, get on my game, find my mojo. Yet that journey seemed like molasses. It was so freaking slow, dude. Like I just had to keep, the gurus, just keep at it. Don't quit, even if it takes forever. And yet something inside of me said, there's something wrong with this philosophy.
Yeah.
Frustration is a faulty philosophy plus hard work. Yeah. So I was working really hard with a faulty philosophy. It had some truth to it, but I got very frustrated because I felt like all the time I should be further ahead. Like with all the stuff I'm doing, I should be further ahead.
What do you mean? What do you mean by further ahead? Like you should be coping with things better. You should not be as much porn.
Making more money, getting out of the addictive cycles, having better relationships. And it felt like just slow. I was like, why does it have to take years to make a change? And then you think you've changed, but then you relapse and you didn't really change.
Yeah.
So I kind of got angry inside. It was like, I want to figure this sucker out. Like, I want to figure out, how do people change and get results that last? And how do you really like change your identity so it completely changed?
Like $1 million question right there, bro.
My old self was just like, this sucks. I'm from a town of less than 2,000 people, didn't have much going for me, lots of broken things, but I was like, I had a desire for more and I wanted it all. I just didn't know how. So yeah, man, I went on this journey, started to do a bunch of personal development stuff, read all the books. I was going to become a doctor of natural medicine. My dad's a clinical kinesiologist. I studied and did a ton of stuff like with therapies. My stepmom's a naturopath. So I did a lot of like things with alternative healing. And as I started to see that so many people were making massive changes in the health space,
Yeah.
but I thought, well, what about in relationships and wealth? Like,
Yep.
and the principle kept coming back that everything's energy, everything has a vibration to it, everything's a frequency. But yet the application of it was just totally stupid. It's just repetition and passion. That's how you change it. So
Isn't that funny?
I was just really fed up with this.
Well, you know, we forget that everything inside of us is just electrical signals.
It is.
Right? You can measure energy. You can
Yeah.
measure energy like much like you can measure sound.
Exactly.
Right? Light. You can. There's a measurable, manageable. I don't want to say thing, but energy.
Yeah. So
Right.
so yeah, man. I mean, I went on this journey and I started studying a bunch. And as I started applying these principles, they started to work. I went from making less than $13,500 a year as a broken massage therapist, struggling with everything, recently
$15
married,
an hour.
sucked, to within about 7 months hit my first six figures,
Wow.
and then more than doubled it the next year, and then went on our way to make millions of dollars and helping people all over the world. Wrote 2 books.
Wow.
Still doing some of the old philosophy. Did all that like up to about 5 or 6 years ago. And then I just became really obsessed with change. Like, how do you really change? And I ended up developing my own process that is called the cellular alignment technique. And that was like the game changer. So took over 600 different techniques that I've been through, processes to help my mindset, make money, work on things, all labeled under repetition and passion. Like drill it. Or it was get to the root cause. So that was the other philosophy. The problem with that philosophy was some of those roots go deep and you got to dig forever. And you just keep digging and digging and digging and digging.
And sometimes how does that root affect the immediate moment? At times we can make a complete, I don't need to look at the root. I need to look at the present environment and do tweaks to the environment to get a change that I want now. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I did a ton of like, regression stuff, like figuring out the root cause, hundreds and thousands of hours into this, going through all these things, and literally about 600 different techniques and probably about 30,000 hours or more of effort, work on myself and other people and helping people. I came to this very cool realization that this doesn't happen very often in my life, but I had a dream.
Okay.
And I think God was just like, Tyler, you need it really clear because sometimes I'm really thick-headed. And so he's like, here's a dream. So I had this download of all the pieces that I had worked on for the past, 6 years. And the missing piece, what was it? The philosophies, hey, repetition, passion, or get to the root cause, or break through it, put more energy in than it's coming at you. So all these things worked, but I felt like there was something missing. And what it came down to was this. In this, at night, I had this idea, and it was actually because my wife had a gluten allergy. So she had this gluten allergy, and I had tried other techniques because I'm all about changing whatever comes up. And I could get it to work on some people, but not on my immediate family. So my wife, it just wouldn't work on. I was like, what the heck?
Wow, bro, that's intense. You tried on your immediate family.
Oh yeah, because those are the hardest, dude. Wow. So I was like, if it works on, it works, right?
Dude, that's real talk.
So I didn't want this excuse. It was like, you can't be your prophet in your own land. I was like, well, screw that. I was like, let's figure this sucker out.
Dude, I love the way you challenge that theory.
Yeah, because it's not a law, is it?
Not a law. It's a saying, and it's a saying that Jesus had a difficult time. He's just saying I had a difficult time in this area. It wasn't saying it can't be done.
Exactly. So sometimes we hear things and we make them like laws in our life, and we think that is how it has to be. Just because someone said it, or I saw it that way, or it was my past perception. So therefore, this is the way it has to be. And I'm all about challenging everything that I think has to be a certain way. So as I did that, at night, I had this idea that, okay, Tyler, and I believe God gave me this answer, and it was the only reason that your wife would ever struggle with a gluten allergy is because some part of her at a cellular level is addicted to the symptoms that it's causing and allergic to what she actually wants. And that's it. And the whole philosophy was, if you can get every cell in your body to resonate with the frequency that you want, then that symptom will go away and what you want will actually occur. And if it's not gone away, some part of it's still addicted and some part of it's still allergic, period. That's it.
Wow.
So I was like, really? Like, is this with everything? And the idea was like, yes. So I developed this systematic approach to use this process to reprogram the cellular memory to get rid of the fight flight responses in the body. So I did it on my wife. And within about an hour, the first thing she said was, I want some toast. And I was like, okay. She ate it, no problems. This was like 7 years of allergic responses to gluten. So I thought, well, let's test it on other people. So we tried it on a bunch of food allergies, and people with celiac stuff, like crazy things, started getting, they were popping bread in, eating it, no problem. I was like, what the heck? This is weird. This is crazy.
Well, that is really weird because it's not something, a lot of the time in psychology, I do a lot of that psychology stuff.
Yeah.
We measure the abstract, and it's really hard to prove that this is the one thing that had the clinical impact or significance on this. You're doing it with physical symptoms, which is a lot harder. It either happens or it doesn't.
Yeah, you can't like just imagine it. It's actually a change. So
okay, keep going. I'm listening.
Part of me was like, hey, is this placebo? If so, it's very placebo-y and like working on everybody. So I was like, sweet, keep it coming. So the next thing as an entrepreneur, I'm like, well, if everything's a vibrational pattern and frequency, what about money? So I was like, okay, why is it that some people have clients reach out to them and they don't even market? Like some people, they just literally in the world, some of them, people just come to them and they pay and they don't market. So I was like, what makes that person that way versus me right now, who's in this moment of like, I feel like I got to market like crazy, do all this stuff, and it's not happening. So I thought, well, the only reason that Tyler is not having that happen is because some part of you at a cellular level is addicted to that symptom, meaning I have to market. So I'm addicted to, I have to market and work hard to get the result, and allergic to the outcome, which is pushing away the thought that, hey, people can just come to me and pay in full regardless of me marketing to them. So I did it on this phrase because everything comes down to words with this process. It's very word-based.
It's very, yeah.
And your reactions to the words.
So what you're saying is your mind lists, your mind and body listen to every word that you say.
It reacts to every word.
Not think, but say.
And you can even what you think.
But so both. Okay, but when you say it, when you're multisensory, you get more of a powerful,
even more of a reaction. So when we work on stuff, we want to vocalize it because then it evokes the reaction factor.
You got a lot more stuff going on. Okay.
Yeah. But you can just think it and it'll work. It just takes a little bit more repetition and passion.
Yeah.
That's where the repetition and passion come into place to replace the impact there. So
brilliant.
As I started to do this, I did it. And within 24 hours, I had 4 people reach out on different platforms and paid in full I made like $8,000 over the course of 24 hours. And this was like totally random. And I was like, what the heck?
What did you do?
This is great. I did the alignment. So I did it so we call it alignment. So it's the process that I teach.
Okay.
And I can share some of it with you guys, but
share some of it.
Did the whole process, took about an hour, and I did it on the phrase, I have people reach out to me and pay for my services regardless of my marketing. So each one of those words has its own resonance based on my past perceptions. So some part of me was allergic to that and addicted to the opposite.
The hard work, the grinding, the marketing.
Whatever it was.
And I could get that. I'm addicted to that. I could see that.
So I had to first And the process goes in and pinpoints where it's at, and then you just turn off those fight flight responses, and now you're at full cause, so you're not allergic or addicted anymore.
So when you mean turn off the fight or flight, it means when your allergy comes up, like when your allergy comes up, which means thoughts coming in. What you're doing is you're reframing those thoughts.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
So, help me out a little bit then.
Yep. Yeah. So let's just take it very simple. So let's say I say the word money.
Okay.
I could have a room of 300 people, and I just say money. The moment I speak money, everybody's having 1,000 different reactions. Most of them are unconscious.
And mind.
Most of them are unconscious. So in their mind, they're like, oh yeah, cool. I could be like, all right, how many of you guys are ready to make $10,000 this month or 100,000? Everybody's like, sweet, I'm in.
Yeah.
But what they don't know is that at a cellular level, their cellular memory, areas in their body are having complete freakouts dependent upon the reactions of their past, what they're addicted to. So they could be like, hey, I'm going to go you could say a positive affirmation, but that positive affirmation could actually cause a negative effect in you. So if I'm drilling something and I'm like, hey, I'm a money magnet. Yay, I love making money, which is why the repetition and passion technique takes so long, because the whole philosophy is, hey, I got to drill it so it'll go through my RAS and hopefully bypass that and actually become part of your subconscious. But what are you trying to bypass? You're trying to bypass all your fight, flight responses. That's the whole point. You can do it through a lot of repetition and cause a lot of trouble in your body. Or you can be like, all right, I just had a bunch of reactions. Let's strategically turn them off so that now when you vocalize that thing, there's no more disconnection associated to that word or to that idea. So that's what this technique does. We strategically go through every part of your body, and we do it physically, we do it emotionally, we do it mentally, we do it in multiple ways so that it's a full identity transformation within an hour instead of taking a year of repetition and hard knocks and trying to practice it.
That's wild, man. You have me tripping.
It's crazy.
Let's take it back to when you're trying to do the cellular alignment, right? Is that what we're calling it?
Cellular alignment technique.
Cellular alignment. You're doing it for money. You did your process within an hour, and then 4 people called you. How did they know?
I don't know. They just reached out. One was LinkedIn. One was Facebook. I never do LinkedIn. One was like an email that somebody sent me.
Wow.
And it was like weird. And one of them was just like, hey, I've been looking at your stuff. And I was like, I don't even have anything out there. And they're like, hey, I just want to work with you. So I hopped on and they paid in full for like $8,000. I was like, that's cool.
Because, there's a theory in psychology and in biblical, I don't know, some people go out, that all of our consciousness are aligned. Everyone, there's one consciousness.
Yeah.
And within that one consciousness or whatever, you can say it a million different ways. I'm just kind of framing it where most people understand. Within that conscious, we're all aligned. And there is some science in the sense of people can travel at the speed of thought. Like thoughts aren't just some random things. There's a lot more to that than what we think. There's a physical thing going on. So that with this consciousness, everyone's connected. If you're doing those things, then that can naturally impact other people in the world. Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah. That's essentially what you're doing. It's like, imagine every cell in your body is its own radio station, but it's tuned into literally thousands of different things. So your reality is a direct reflection of whatever every organ and gland and cell in your body is attuned to. If you change the channel, your reality completely changes.
Wow. And you know why this and the reason why this makes sense, because whenever I talk to somebody, I'm a multidisciplinary type person. So whenever they're saying truths that are true and multidisciplinary, I'm like, oh, okay. Because what you're saying into this kind of it beats onto the drum of your body has a scorecard. Your body remembers everything. And what a lot of psychologists are going on to is saying trauma is where your body keeps count. Your body remembers every trauma that you went through, whether it's your mind or not, whether you remember it or not, your body remembers it. Yeah, so what you're saying is your body is impacted. You're at the cellular level by everything you go through, by your experiences, by your environment. Is that what you're kind of explaining?
Exactly. So I already kind of understood that principle as a massage therapist. And I was
Yeah.
studying and I was doing Ayurvedic medicine. I was becoming a doctor of natural medicine. So I already knew about the power of the body and vibrational frequencies and traumas.
And your dad was a kinesiology kind of guy too, right?
Yep. So
So
I
he,
learned
so
muscle
you had
testing
your
all the time,
compounded knowledge.
everything. Here
Yeah.
was my problem was why don't people muscle test for money and relationship stuff? Why is it just like foods and natural stuff? Like if the philosophy is real, then your body will have reactions to everything. So
It's just they're so disconnected though.
they
Right?
are.
It
They're
never
completely.
makes
They're like
sense.
you can only do it over here, and I challenged that. I was like, why? Like, why do they say you can only do it there? Like, is that a law? Like,
No.
is that a law that says you only can use CK when it comes to health stuff? If anything outside of that becomes woo woo and crazy and you can hurt somebody, I was like,
It's a rule. It's a fake rule.
who made this? Like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
it was a rule made by somebody who screwed something up and caused a disconnection and a pain. So most pain is only like 5% of what people go through. It's the avoidance of the pain that continues the other 95% of the pain.
Yeah.
So if we have a
Oh, yeah.
disconnection, a separation, most of us spend the rest of our life trying to avoid that pain from rehappening, which then causes so many other disconnections and pains.
Avoidance is the number one reason for depression.
Super. Yeah. That's why I was depressed for like 8 years.
Right.
And so as I went through all this stuff, I was like, it was bridging all these things that I'd learned growing up, but it started to make so much more sense. And I wanted to test it on other people because also I got my degree in pre-med biology and I was like, I love testing stuff. So
Attaboy.
I was like, let's do this. So I was like, I need a bunch of volunteers.
Uh-huh,
So I was
uh-huh.
like, who wants to see if this will work? So I took a bunch of like chiropractors, other coaches, people who had businesses, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do some aligning on you and let's see what happens in your business specifically to making money and getting clients. So I did a chiropractor who took his income from 30K, went to 60K in less than 30 days without changing anything externally. Another one I did, a practitioner who was used to getting like 6 or 7 clients over the course of weeks and months when he'd have new ones come in. In 1 week, he landed 6 to 7 new clients just after aligning. So I started to see these crazy things happening. A guy nailed his first $10,000 month ever.
Wow.
After like going through all the different programs and spending stuff, but still nothing was happening. So I was like, well, it's working on finances. What about relationships? So then I was like, okay, let's do that.
That's way harder.
So I did it on a lady who she was older and her daughter was like 41 or something. And she had always had like this troubled child who she never felt like loved her or validated her. And she felt like she gave everything to.
Yeah.
With that, after aligning, 2 days later, the daughter wrote her a letter of gratitude for the first time in her entire life. And it like, she was bawling and just said like, this is the most precious thing I've ever had. So I was like, cool. And then I saw people get out of divorce. Like they were on the verge of divorce. We started helping people in that realm.
That's real evidence, bro. Because that's one of the hardest things to track back or stop.
You think, but it's just a summation of patterns and frequencies, and you can change it. So
you remind me. Tell people sometimes I try to view life like Neo from the Matrix.
Yeah.
And once he's reached that full, when you just see all the numbers, you just see all the patterns.
Well, the problem with this is once you understand this, you can't go back because you can't be a victim anymore. It's like, oh crap. And sometimes you want to play the victim card, but you can't.
I don't have to own it.
So yeah, man, I did it on all sorts of stuff. And then the final kicker was a guy named Craig who had had a cardiac arrest for like 5 years. His symptoms was if he walked and looked left or right, he'd fall over. Wow. If he could function about 4 hours a day, lost his business because of this, tried everything. His wife was a master healer, energy person. They did everything under the moon. And I was like, well, my philosophy is the only reason you're struggling with that is because some part of you is addicted to it and some parts of you allergic to what you want. That's it. Let's see if it works. So we did it. I didn't really know. I'm not attached to any outcome. And after doing it, he called me like a week later and he was in tears. And he's like, Tyler, you're not going to believe this, but I'm functioning over 8 hours a day. He had to wear sunglasses because like the photoreceptors were screwed up, and he had to wear earplugs all the time. No more glasses, no more earplugs. 8 hours a day, I can walk, look left and right. I don't fall over.
Wow.
So that's when I got it, the download. I need to teach this.
Yeah.
So I moved from coaching entrepreneurs about business to teaching entrepreneurs how to align and get what they want in days instead of taking years.
Wow.
So that's kind of my journey, man. And
that's brilliant.
We've been at this 5 years, and my mission is to get this out to the world and teach people like how to do this, to get the belief inside of them so that they don't have to needlessly suffer and that they can change anything within minutes or hours instead of taking years suffering like I had
to. Two more things before we leave. One would be how can people get a hold of you? Two would be, I know they're going to, in order for them to really get this process down, they would need to contact you and go through your processes, right? But what's one thing that we can leave the listeners with?
Read my book. So thealignmenteffect.com. So if you go to alignmenteffect.com, it'll take you right to the book. The book will teach you a lot of these principles, go into a little bit of the process itself.
Wow.
Alignmenteffect.com. And what that does is it shows a lot of case studies, a lot of people who've been through it. It gets you to believe in something that you probably never even fathomed was possible. I had Russell Brunson read this. I had a lot of people read this who are like, oh my gosh, they say it's like the missing link between where you are and where you want to be. So yeah, that's the start. And then once they go there, we have all sorts of great things. We do 3-day virtual events. I have my mastermind for lead entrepreneurs. I fly people out. I work on a day. I do retreats. We do the works. Anything to get them the results as fast as possible.
Oh man, I love it. I love it. Hey Tyler, I really appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate you sharing this wisdom. And you know, because I'm similar to you, man. I'm on a journey. I'm on a path. My clients aren't the entrepreneurs, it's the disabled, the foster. Like I'm in the trenches right now, and I'm always looking for something that's going to help, especially like some of the toughest kids, which are the hyperactive kids or hyperactive autistic kids.
Yeah, boys, we've had people get trained and do it. I had a guy who was working out of school, and he switched all his techniques, just started doing this. And we can't say it cures diagnosis or does anything, but like the suicide rate dropped dramatically because even that, like I'm passionate about, because I had suicidal tendencies, and all that is a vibrational pattern with a lot of stuffed things that we didn't communicate. And yes, it changes your philosophy, your physiology, but that's still a vibrational pattern and frequency too. Yeah. So, man, I'm just like, there are so many ways to help, but I believe that the fastest way is to change every single cell in your body. And when you do that, you don't have to go through the crap. You can actually start to be present and go create what you want.
Ooh, I love that. I love it. Well, Tyler, thank you for joining us. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to purchase the book because I need to know more resources for my clients and my students. So I appreciate you joining. Everybody, feel free to go find Tyler's book, buy it, get involved, find that transformation, find that growth, find that journey. All right, everyone.
Thanks, man.
Peace out. Tyler, nice having you on, brother.